This is the shooting that happened last night in California. Okay. I think the company is called ACS. If anybody knows anything about ACS, put that in the comments. But apparently, what happened was, and this is to the best of my knowledge, don't quote me. Old lady has an alarm go off or contacts, or somehow the alarm company is contacted that there's a potential break-in at her house. I don't know if police are alerted or not, but the responding security company that apparently works in the neighborhood. I saw a news story today where they were talking to several people in the neighborhood. Lots of them had these signs. This ACS, armed response, is what it says on the signs. Okay. So apparently this guy, he makes the response, he gets there, and then somehow there's a shooting. Okay. And the lady who made the phone call, the 88-year-old woman, is shot in the abdomen. Now, apparently so far she's alive. Hopefully she recovers. But in this situation, I want to discuss whether or not this was a tactically sound way to address this situation. Now, before we go any further, everything that I'm saying, I'm talking about in terms of tactics. I am not talking about or negatively about this officer. We just went through this whole list of like not talking bad about people and not nitpicking. We're going to have to talk about and nitpick the tactics, and we're doing that from a position of education. This is not to condemn this person. This person has not been, to my knowledge, I don't know if they've been charged. If anybody knows, please let me know. To my knowledge, they have not clearly been convicted of anything. We're simply addressing the tactics. I got a comment that just came in. Let's see what we got here. Give guns to untrained people to respond to alarms. We're gonna get there. We're gonna slow walk it. So I'm gonna show you guys a video. I don't know if this is the officer. I'm going to assume. Earlier, someone had said that it was a female officer, but I heard on the news today that it was a male officer. This video does not have audio. It's got like background noise, but you're not having any commentary in it. I'm going to assume that the person that you're seeing in the security uniform on his phone is either A, the shooter, or B, maybe a supervisor. So I hate to say that the person that's shown here is the one that's involved in the shooting if they are in fact a supervisor and they're responding to the situation. We don't know. I don't have any more information, but I'm going to show you this video. I'll play it in its entirety. It's going to be a little bit quiet, and then we'll break down some of the issues that I have with the tactics involved. Here we go. Considering the results of the situation, again, there's so much that we don't understand, we don't know. The news story said that she was shot in her home. So from that, we can deduce that the security guard clearly arrives to the scene and the homeowner is inside the house. The shooting happens inside the house. So I'm going to assume that this officer either A, cleared the outside of the home and then made entry, or B, maybe bypassed the outside of the home and attempted to clear the inside of the home. Some things to consider when working in an armed response. I think that it's hard for security guards to separate themselves from the job that we are essentially doing from the scope of our authority. What do I mean by that, right? So as an armed officer who is responding to alarms, the image that you're selling and the product that you're selling to the community is that the cops are either A, slow to respond, or B, not responding. They're not responding to things like homeless people being on your property or drug addicts that are loitering in the neighborhood. Maybe they're, casing your car, or they're looking at your property. Those are some of the things that based on Democrat policies in a place like California and Portland that the police might not be responding to. So in essence, what security is selling to the general public is that we will respond in those situations. But the scope of our work is not to be an engagement force, right? In my opinion, when that security guard, without knowing anything else that happened in that situation, when that security guard is approaching that home, if the thought is that there's an alarm going off and there is a potential burglary or robbery in progress, in my opinion, he has to notify law enforcement, and he has to either A, get in contact or attempt to get in contact with the people that are inside that home, right? If there is any indication that the homeowners are in some sort of immediate distress that is absolutely 100% visible. You're hearing someone screaming. You're seeing that the door is kicked in. There's blood. I mean, even in that situation, I don't know that security guard should be going into the home. I think that the idea of what we're being tasked to do in reality does not align with what our authority and the scope of our work in security. Now, some of you guys, you work for security companies where your standard operating procedures are, hey, clear the building, clear the home, do this, do that. And I understand that there's a market for that, but that doesn't negate the fact that that is not the responsibility of private security, specifically in places like California and Portland. Can you get away with it? Yes. Can you operate a business that sells that as what you are bringing to the table? Yes, you can. Is it lucrative? Absolutely. Is there a need for it? 100%. Is that what the California BSSIS, whatever it's called, or Oregon DPSST, is that what they're teaching, training, and certifying you on? 100% no. There's no CQB in the DPSST Oregon manual. I don't believe that there's any CQB in the California security manual. They're not teaching SWAT tactics for breach and rescue in either area. Why? Because that's not what our job is. That's not what they're expecting us to do from a standardized state level. Now, I agree that there is a market for that, and I think that there is a need for that, but short of there being a government oversight like there is for law enforcement in that capacity, you are putting yourself in a situation where as long as nothing goes wrong, you might be fine. But if you find yourself in this situation, now you're fucked. Because there's no way to articulate, short of any other information that comes out, where this guy says, hey, I got to the house and she was screaming and I could see, people in the house and the windows were broken, the door was kicked in, she's screaming, and I get in there, the guy runs out of the house and she comes around the corner. Short of that, there's no way to justify what just happened. And I don't say this to be mean or hurtful or negative. I don't. I'm looking at this from a liability standpoint and from the repercussions that are going to come from this. And boy, are they going to be swift and aggressive. Let's see here. What else do we have? The standing operator procedures dictate firearms be exposed. I put that in here because on the community tab, someone had said, hey, my company says if we're responding to an alarm, if we're clearing a building, then our firearm needs to be out. And I asked him, I said, well, are you clearing the building with the firearm presented, or is it down at your side? Like, how are you doing that? Because if you're clearing a room and you're by yourself, you're clearing a building by yourself as a security guard, especially if it's a dark room or a dark building, and you have that firearm clear, right? If you're clearing that building and you're in Sewell, or if you have your firearm presented and you have a flashlight, you're putting yourself in a situation where exactly what happened here could happen to you. To me, in a security capacity, that firearm doesn't come out until you have made identification of a threat and you've also identified imminent danger. It's not just that you see the threat. You have to have that positive identification of the threat, but you also have to have positive identification of the imminent danger, right? We're not police officers. We don't have that qualified immunity. We don't have that indemnity of the state that if we make a mistake or something goes wrong, it's in the commission of our duty. And there's this gray area about, well, it was dark, and there's all kinds of fail safes to protect the police officer in a situation where something of an accidental nature happens. We don't have that in security. We don't, because that is not the scope of what the state is expecting us to be doing. I think that this situation brings into conversation the need for there to be more levels, maybe across the board in the industry, in terms of authority. Maybe there needs to be more training in terms of tactics, or a different level of card or something. You know, there's a lot of things that we could discuss, but in and of itself, this situation, to me, that is not tactically sound. And if companies are telling their officers that they need to present their firearm when they're clearing a room or clearing a building as a security guard, I think that they are setting themselves up for failure. All right, these are the things that we know. I'm going to finish this up. What do we know about the situation? So I've been saying what we don't know. We don't know, if he went into the house, why he went into the house, what the situation is. This is what we do know. He broke all 4 firearm safety rules. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Finger off the trigger and out of the trigger well. Don't point at anything that you don't wish to destroy or kill. And know your target. Positively identify it and the backstop and what's to the left and to the right. If he would have followed the 4 firearm safety rules, and I say we because this is going to have an effect on all of security. When they say as goes California, goes the entire country, this is going to have a reverberating effect across the country for private security. Trust me, in terms of armed security, right? If he would not have broken those 4 firearm safety rules, none of us would be in this situation. What do we know is possible? It's possible that the officer was clearing the area with an exposed firearm. Now, I went to the range today, and the range that I go to, they have, the mechanical system, and they have a rule that if you shoot the target carrier, it's $75. They have like our big red line on the target holder. And when you get there every single time, hey, how are you? Good to see you again. Glad you're here. When was the last time you shot? Oh, I was here 2 weeks ago. Okay, great. I need you to look at the carrier and let me know if you see any strikes or any marks. No, sir. It looks good. Okay, great. You understand our policy? Yep. All right. Happy shooting. If you shoot that carrier, they have your credit card at the thing. When you come in, you give them your license and your credit card. You shoot that carrier. They call in with the radio. Yeah. 1 carrier strike. That's $75. You do it again, they kick you out and don't let you come back. Right? Now, that being said, again, this firearm is clear. Right? I cannot tell you how many times, because this is a new firearm, when I have gone in there over the past, I'd say month and a half, I've maybe shot this firearm 3 times, where I am trying to find that wall. When you're trying to break in a Glock, you're like trying to find that wall so that you can get there quick, and you're on target and you're trying to find that wall and I've done that many, many times. Understanding that I'm focused on my target, understanding that I know that if I shoot that carrier, holder or whatever, that I'm going to be charged. And I feel like I'm a pretty good marksman. I'm a pretty good, sound shooter. There have been 3 times where trying to find that wall, I've gone through it too quick and I've winged off that shot. Now, I've never hit the carrier, right? But each time that happens, I think to myself, what if I was in a situation where I'm drawing my firearm in a concealed carry situation? What if I was utilizing that firearm and that technique in a situation where I'm at work? Like you can't let that bullet get away from you like that, right? But it does happen, right? And that's happening on a gun range where you're in complete control and everything is structured around you. You're not going through a dark home where there's been a burglary or a potential robbery. So it's easy, very, very easy to pull through that trigger if you're scared or nervous or have a lot of adrenaline. So we know that officer was potentially, or we're possible that officer was potentially clearing the area with an exposed firearm that led to that round coming off. What is likely? Most likely this is unintentional. We don't think that this guy went in there with the intention to harm someone, right? But we'll have to wait and see. Okay. Accidental versus negligent discharge. In my opinion, when it comes to accidental discharges, those are situations that happen hands-free. There were the situations where I think it was the SIGs. They were having some issues of SIGs going off in people's holsters. And there's video of people putting the firearm into the holster and, moving around or whatever, and the firearm going off. Okay. Even in those situations, it was found out that maybe there was something inside the holster, or there was an issue with whether or not the slide was all the way in battery when it was placed in. All kinds of reasons why this accidental discharge happened, right? Negligent discharges are based on the definition of negligence. And that definition is failure to take proper care in doing something. This is not an accidental discharge. Sean from the Security Investigation Leadership Channel, he had said, let's be very careful to not say that this is a negligent discharge. He quoted some legal reasons behind that. I get that. This is not an accident. The news is saying that it's an accident. This is negligence. And in California, ultimately, more than likely, okay, I could be wrong, but more than likely, he's going to be held responsible for this, because you cannot argue if you are an armed security guard, if you are certified, if you have held your concealed carry license, all of the things that come with being an educated, responsible gun owner, you cannot justify why you shot this lady in the stomach just based on the firearm safety rules, the 4 cardinal rules of firearm safety. You didn't positively identify this person. You didn't understand that your finger was on the trigger. You didn't realize your gun was loaded. You didn't know what was, beyond what you were shooting at. All of those things. It's going to be really hard to argue that what you did was accidental and not negligent.